Three young boys walk onto a bus, and they head to the back of the bus, and they notice that there's a lone man sitting there. So they make this decision to throw insults at him. Nothing, no response. The three young men then decided they're going to turn up the heat, and they're going to make the insults even more worse. Still nothing, no response. Eventually, the stranger stands up, and in awe, these three boys, three young men, recognize that this man is much bigger than them. The lone man reaches into his pocket and hands him a card and walks off the bus. The three young boys, they huddle around the card to read what it says. Joe Louis, boxer. They had just tried to pick a fight with the man who would become the heavyweight champion of the world from 1937 until 1949. 12 years as the reigning champion, unheard of. It is said that Joe Louis could knock out a horse with one punch. With one punch. Well, welcome, guys. My name is Steve. Hi. Thanks for coming here. Thanks for being out tonight. I appreciate you guys coming out. So Dan opened us up in a series last week called Once Upon a Time. He explained to us the intricate part that stories play in our lives, the emotional roller coasters of thoughts and emotions that run through us. And in this story that I just told you, you have a man who has immense power and strength, capable of defending himself with one devastating blow. Yet, he chooses to walk off the bus and leave the situation instead of hurting these young men. And the same as Dan explained last week, I tell you this story in hopes to make you think. To think about a situation that maybe you have been in. That you needed to restrain yourself and put others before you. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that if you've been around Christians or in the Christian realm for very long, you have heard this. Humility. Humility. Let me define humility for you. Humility is the polite choice to forgo your status, to use your influence, hang on, wait for it, for the good of others, putting them before yourself. When's the last time that you were in an argument? 2 weeks ago? Maybe it was yesterday. Heck, maybe it was right before you walked into the auditorium. And what was it about? Was it something serious? Maybe something intense? No, you know what? It was dramatic, right? Or maybe it was something silly that you think back now that why in the heck did me and this random dude in my chemistry class get into an argument about who makes better milkshakes? Right, exactly. What? But maybe if you don't relate to that, maybe you can relate to this. Which member of your family are you likely to argue with the most? You know what? That's an easy one. That's an easy one. This one might be a little more challenging. Which non-family member engages you in the highest number of arguments per month? See, for me, when I was in high school, I had my fair share of arguments. My junior year, a buddy of mine and I, we got into an argument, into almost a fist fight, because he had asked me for gas money. Now, granted, there were some underlying issues there. But on the surface, to the outside person, here were two teenage boys that just started arguing and then raging for what? $4? Oh, did I forget to say that gas, when I was younger, $4 could fill like a half a tank of gas, right? Whatever you call them, an argument, disagreements, misunderstandings, maybe intense fellowship, drama, they happen. They're gonna happen. And sometimes they're valid. Other times they're not. Sometimes you get a chance to cool off and make up. Sometimes you don't. But very rarely do people walk into conflict or an argument with the thought, I need to talk this out and make this right. If you've watched any reality show where a bunch of people cram themselves into a house, you would understand this. Because what you see beneath the arguments, somebody always holds this thought: you're an idiot. You're an idiot. And if you haven't had that thought, maybe you've had one of these thoughts: I'm smarter than you. I'm better than you. I'm right, and of course you're always wrong. Maybe just like this young girl in this video. No, we don't have the video. Forget the video. But here's the thing. Do you ever find yourself thinking those things in the middle of an argument? Or maybe, do you ever find yourself thinking this for no apparent reason? Are there people in your house or at your school that, if you're honest with yourself, you would say, I'm smarter than them? Oh, I'm so much better than them. I'm always right and you're always wrong. You know, it's funny, when I talk to teenagers, the number is astronomical that think that they're smarter and better than their friends or even their parents. Now, I fell into this category. I did. For years, when I was a teenager, for years I thought, I am so much better than my parents. I am so much smarter than my parents. The thing is, when conflict happens, here's what's in the back of most people's minds. I'm right, and you're wrong. And you may not fall into that category, but maybe you fall into this one. Do you think that you're better than certain people? Granted, you might be older, legitimately better as an athlete or as a musician. Maybe you are smarter. Maybe you're a harder worker, but that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm asking you is, do you think you're above them as a human being? Better than them? You know the type of decisions they make, and you would put your good decisions against their bad decisions any day, and you would think, I'm better than them. Of course, you wouldn't say it out loud, though, right? But here's the bottom line. No matter the reason, anytime we walk around and feel that we're better than someone else, it reveals a problem. A problem in our character. A problem in our character. So I'd like to turn to the Bible, what Jesus has to say about this. Like Dan told us last week, it's once upon a time. So we're going to look at a parable, a story that Jesus told. The thing is people who heard this once upon a time story, well, they were forced to ask themselves a question. Who am I in this story? See, Jesus, his stories were like mirrors that he held up to his audience so that they could see themselves in that story. And the audience they weren't always sure about God. The stories were just as helpful, though, if they weren't part of the religious crowd. And the story we're going to look at today is no different. It's no different. See, one day Jesus was invited to a dinner at the house of a man who was well respected in the community. He was identified as a religious leader, Religious meaning that he obeyed God's rules and he did what was good. Leader meaning that other people followed him and looked up to him because, well, he was in charge. So we get this picture of Jesus stepping into this home. However, everywhere Jesus went, people were following him. So this dinner quickly turned into a dinner party. And some of these partiers, they weren't only curious about Jesus, they were suspicious of him. And as quickly as the party got started, Jesus healed a man who was suffering from abnormal swelling. This created instant controversy because it was on the day of a week that, well, it's set aside for rest, the Sabbath, when people weren't supposed to work. And while the crowd was working itself up into a frenzy, debating whether or not healing somebody was actual work, Jesus was noticing something. He noticed how they were picking their spots at the table. So a little background about that is, in this culture, people reclined on low couches for important meals. And the closer that you sat to the host, the higher your status was. It would be almost like you going to a Los Angeles Lakers game and you sitting in the top row and you're looking down at the people in the front row going, hey, I've seen you on TV, right? You're rich, right? They're more prominent, like they have this higher status. And Jesus noticed that everyone at this dinner was inching their way closer and closer to the host. Why? Because they wanted everybody to know their status was higher than everybody else's. They wanted it to be clear that they were better than the people around them. So Jesus broke out into this once upon a time story. And I love the name of this. So the name of this, what we're going to be reading from Luke 14:7 through 14 from the Message, it's called Invite the Misfits. I love that, by the way. And it says this: he went on to tell a story to the guests around the table, noticing how each had tried to elbow into the place of honor. He said, when someone invites you to dinner, don't take the place of honor. Somebody more important than you might have been invited by the host. Then he'll come and he'll call out in front of everybody, you're in the wrong place. The place of honor belongs to this man. Red-faced, meaning angry. You'll have to make your way to the very last table, the only place left. And when you're invited to dinner, go and sit at the last place. Then, when the host comes, he may very well say, friend, come up to the front. That will give the dinner guests something to talk about. What I'm saying is, if you walk around with your nose in the air, you're going to end up flat on your face. But, I love this transition right here, but if you're content to be simply yourself, you will become more than yourself. The word used in other translations for become more than yourself is to exalt, to be exalted. Meaning that you would be lifted higher. You would be put in a higher position. And when you hear these verses, it's as if Jesus was saying, hey, hello, do you people see the way you're acting? You're trying to make yourselves better, smarter, cooler, more spiritual than everybody else. But that's not the way it happens. That's not the way it works in my kingdom. He says, hear me. I value people. And in order for you to follow me, you must choose to value other people above your status. And in order to truly value other people, you must be humble, putting others before yourself. And then Jesus turns to the host, and he says this: the next time you put on a dinner, don't just invite your friends and your family and the rich neighbors. the people, the kind of people who will return the favor. But hang on, I like when people return the favor. I don't know about you. They can return the favor. I like it. But he goes, invite some people who never get invited out. Well, then who am I going to invite? And he goes on, the misfits from the wrong side of the tracks. Now, why in the world would I want to invite the misfits from across the track, from the wrong side of the tracks? They're the lowlifes, right? They're below me. Their status, it's nothing. Why would I want to invite them? Jesus answers this. You'll be and experience a blessing. What blessing would come from these people? And he answers that. They won't be able to return the favor. Then, hang on, I like favors returned. Why would I invite them? But the favor will be returned. Oh, how it will be returned at the resurrection of God's people. See, here's the truth about this. No one values humanity more than God. And to God, every human matters. Every human matters. That's one of the things that Jesus revealed to us when he was here on earth. He said, the cool people, they matter. The unpopular people, oh, they matter. The kid in the AP chemistry class, he matters. But my son in the remedial class, he matters too. Your friends that drive really nice cars because their parents are rich, they matter. But your friends that their parents are struggling and they can't afford to give them a car, they matter. Why? Because humans matter to God. And there's nothing that honors other people like treating them like they have tremendous value and worth. You could sum it up this way. Nothing values humanity like humility. That's what we've been saying this whole time. Let's look at this word humility. Earlier we said to be humble was to put others before and above yourself. And that's true. It's so true. But for me, that wasn't satisfactory. So I needed to learn is being humble and having humility the same thing. So I turned to the Greek, the original language. And yes, humility is to be low, putting others before yourself, but it's so much more. Check this out. It is a submissiveness or a sense of modesty of human pride, having a humble opinion of oneself or a deep sense of knowing how oneself actually is. What it really is it's an inside-out quality, meaning it is living in complete dependence on the Lord and keeping yourself in check. Listen to what Matthew 23:11 and 12 says. It says, the greatest among you will be your servant. For whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles themselves will be exalted. I want you to think about the people in your life that have had the most influence and impact on you. Chances are good that they didn't act like they were better than you. If you have a good relationship with one of your parents, chances are they don't act like they're better than you. If you admire one of your teachers or adore one of your small group leaders here at 621, chances are they don't think they're better than you. And truth is, the same is true for you and I. Even if you are better, smarter, cooler, richer, more athletic than someone else. You will open up so many doors for influence if you don't act like you're better than them. See, our tendency, is to do what the people did at the dinner party. Move yourself to the head of the table. And this is true when we're at home or when we're out with our friends. I mean, think about this. You and your friends are out one day and you guys meet somebody new. Immediately you turn and you let them know your status, right? But you also let them know their status as being a newbie. And in your own ways, you let people know that you're better, smarter, cooler, funnier, even more talented than they are. But what if instead you chose to be humble? You chose to be humble. And I don't mean walking around with your head down, not looking people in the eye. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not asking you to be an Eeyore. I'm not. But what I'm asking is, what if you showed people that they matter? What if you quit acting like you were better than your mom? What if you listened to people when they talked, even if what they're saying wasn't that interesting to you? What if you paid attention to people who were younger than you? And I'm about to go there. Even your siblings. Yeah, I went there. When we walk away from this parable that Jesus told, we should ask ourselves some questions. Some questions that we can hold up to a mirror and ask seriously of ourselves. Am I being humble? And look at our personal humility. Questions like, do you have a hard time remembering the last time that you apologized? Do you remember, or do you have a hard time remembering the last time you admitted to being wrong? Can you immediately think of people that you think you're better than? Do you avoid people who would love to be noticed by you? Do you talk about people like they have little or no value? If you answered yes to any of these questions, that's okay. It's okay, because the hardest thing to do is to recognize our lack of humility. But once we recognize it, we have to start working on it. So what does that look like to work on this? So I came up with a couple things. The first one is, stop it. Just stop it. We all go through a period of life where we think that we're too much for ourselves. Too much of ourselves. We think too much of ourselves is what I'm trying to say to you. It happens. It's going to happen. What I'm talking about is that at one point in our lives, we think that we're better than others. And the thing is, we're not. We're not. See, recognition of this fact is so important. With spiritual maturity comes the understanding that we need to put others first. And when we do this, we begin to grow in areas of our life that are going to be important to our futures. Second, do a heart check. Do a heart check. Matthew 7, 3-5 reads like this. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there's a plank in your own eye? First, take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. We all have issues. We all struggle in life. I don't know what this person went through before they got here tonight. I don't know what their home life is like, and I don't know what is going on behind the scenes. So how can I judge them? I can't. I can't call somebody out for something that they're doing when I have a plank in my own eye. You need to check your motives. You need to check your heart. And don't come down on somebody else because you don't know what's going on there. Last is this: activate it. Ask yourself, is it more important to be right? Recently, this happened to one of our daughters. The thing is, she was right. What had happened, it wasn't cool. But the real question was, did she have all the information? Sure, she thought she did. She thought she did. So her mother and I sat her down and we talked to her about what it is to be humble and to have humility in the circumstance that is going on. These were her besties, her BFFs. And she needed to set her feelings aside and come to them humbly and ask them what was going on and what had happened and rise them up so they could learn from the situation. See, after you've done the first two steps, stopping it, doing a heart check, you are able then to activate humility. So as we head out today, I want you to think about this next statement I'm about to make. God cares about people more than anything, and he is requesting that you do the same. God cares about people more than anything, and he is requesting that you do the same. Listen to what John 13:34 and 35 says. It says, "So now I am giving you a new commandment. Love each other, just as I have loved you. You should love each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples." God loves you so much, he sent Jesus. And what did Jesus do? He demonstrated to the world just how much love God has for us. Then he died to show how far that love would go. Heck, many of you know John 3:16. Let's look at John 3:16. Maybe you can recite this with me. "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life." If you're a follower of Christ, a Christian who has put your trust in Jesus, you are following the person whose very being is for people. So when we act as though we are better than people, we're taking the opposite nature of what God stands for. And we're devaluing the very people that Jesus died for. Jesus loved people with humility. He treated them like they matter, regardless of their status. And we can do the same thing. Why? Because nothing values humanity like humility. Thanks, guys.